As previously stated, I am Dr. Wayne Walters, proud superintendent of the Pittsburgh Public Schools, and I am here with members of our leadership team and Carrie Woodard, Director of Student Support Services, who specializes in counselor support. Thank you for being here tonight for this Education Committee presentation. This is our 6th monthly public conversation where we are sharing how we are tracking our progress toward our defined goals. Tonight, we are revisiting 12th grade cohort graduation, our 12th grade cohort graduation goal, and providing a status update. We want to be clear about how we're doing and where we can do better to help all our students succeed. For those who are new to our public goal monitoring conversation space, one of the established goals was to focus on our 12th grade cohort graduation. Cohort graduation rates track the percentage of students who graduate within 4 years of starting high school. And for students with disabilities aged 14 through 21, it counts those earning a regular diploma in 4 years. High graduation rates demonstrate a school district's ability to support students in completing their K-12 education while equipping them with the knowledge, skills, and opportunities necessary to thrive in their next phase of life, whether it be college, career, or as a community contributor. Beyond academic milestones, graduation rates reflect our commitment to fostering well-rounded, prepared individuals ready to succeed in an ever-changing world. And here in the Pittsburgh Public Schools, we're also focused on closing gaps in graduation rates, especially for our marginalized populations. We continue to stay the course with our established goal, which is by the end of the 24-25 school year, we want 84.4% of our 12th grade students to graduate. At the end of the 2021 school year, 81.5% of 12th grade students graduated, establishing the baseline for our 5-year goal of achieving an 85.8% graduation rate for 12th grade students by 2027. And to help us see where we are and where we need to go to support the attainment of this goal, we use 2 tools, the Graduation Tracker and the Act 158 dashboard. These tools allow us to track students' pathways to graduation, identify those who may need additional support, and implement timely strategic responses to the data to ensure students stay on track. Graduation Tracker serves as our internal graduation tracking system, providing real-time insights into the students' credit accumulation and overall progress toward meeting graduation requirements. And by using the Graduation Tracker, school counselors and administrators can quickly identify students who may be falling behind and intervene with targeted support. Act 158 completion rates reflect students' progress through Pennsylvania's multiple graduation pathways. These pathways provide flexibility by allowing students to demonstrate readiness through Keystone exam proficiency, alternative assessments, career and technical education programs, and other evidence-based achievements. Act 158 ensures that all students, regardless of their strengths and challenges, have a pathway to earn their diploma. Let's look at the data. By the end of the 24-25 school year, we aim for a graduation rate for our 12th grade students, or a cohort, to be 84.4%. We reached our goal in 2022 and in 2023. And when we first presented this data, we were still waiting for the 24 graduation data. Since then, we've received that data, reflecting growth from 86.1% in the 23 school year to 86.9% in the 24 school year. And we're working hard to keep progressing in the right direction, and we celebrate this accomplishment. The data also shows us which areas need more attention. And as you can see, this past year, every single student subgroup's graduation rate increased, which is a trend we strive to continue. When comparing our data to state averages, African American English language learners and economically disadvantaged students in the district are outperforming their peers statewide. African American students at Pittsburgh Public Schools have a graduation rate of 85.4%, compared to the state average of 80.53%. English language learners have shown notable improvement, increasing from below the state average to now surpassing it, with a graduation rate of 78.2% compared to the state's average of 72.48%. And economically disadvantaged students graduated at a rate of 84.8% compared to the state's average of 82.8%. And while white students continue to have the highest graduation rates within the district, their rate of 91.1% remains slightly below the state average of 91.63%. And so to support our students on their path to graduation, we continue to leverage both tools and investments. Two key tools, Graduation Tracker and Act 158 Dashboard, help us monitor progress, identify students who need support, and respond quickly. And beyond tools, we've made intentional investments in people. An external investment by the Pittsburgh Promise hired and placed Promise coaches in 4 high schools based on graduation data and needed support, specifically Carrick, Malines, Perry, and Westinghouse. They provide mentorship, help students plan for life after high school, and support them through personal and academic challenges. We've also increased the number of school counselors across the district as an internal investment, helping us move closer to the national recommendation by the American School Counselor Association regarding student-to-counselor ratio. And this ensures our students receive the personal guidance they need to stay on track. And now, we're taking support a step further with the launch of Counselor Connect, a new application designed to transform how counselors engage with students and families. Counselor Connect gives school counselors real-time access to each student's academic standard, including graduation requirements, earned and missing credits, attendance trends, and Act 158 status. It also creates a space to address and support non-academic barriers like personal, social, or economic challenges, so counselors can offer holistic and timely support. The tool tracks ongoing student-counselor conversations, auto-populates key data for efficiency, and can even generate personalized letters to families that detail a student's graduation progress and other areas of concern. This direct communication helps bring families into the support process early and often. And with Counselor Connect, we're bridging data and dialogue, ensuring every counselor has the tools to engage more strategically and intentionally. And I'd like to give a shout out to our technology department, specifically Mark Stuckey, our Chief Technology Officer, and Bill Kim, our Director of Data Warehouse and IP Support, for the creation of this tool. And so let's take a closer look at how it works.
As part of our continued efforts to improve graduation rates at Pittsburgh Public Schools, we are excited to introduce Counselor Connect, a new app designed to revolutionize how counselors connect with students and track their progress toward graduation. This tool will empower school counselors to provide more personalized, data-driven support to students by offering real-time insights into their academic standing and progress. When the counselor first logs into the application, they will enter the student ID number in the search field. Once entered, they will press the Enter button on their keyboard to search for the student's information. The student's information will appear on the left-hand side of the screen to ensure that the correct student has been displayed. On the main section of the application, real-time academic insights ensure counselors will be able to monitor students' grades, attendance, and other academic indicators. This feature allows for timely interventions and ensures that students receive the support they need as soon as challenges arise. The app will flag additional barriers to graduation, such as non-academic factors that may be impacting students' ability to stay on track. This could include personal, social, or economic challenges, providing counselors with the necessary data to offer tailored support. Once counselors enter any additional information about a student's situation, Counselor Connect will auto-generate a personalized letter for the student's family. This letter will outline the student's current progress, graduation preparedness, and any areas that may need attention. The generated letter will be sent directly to the student's parent or guardian, ensuring that families are kept informed and can engage in the support process. The launch of Counselor Connect represents a significant step forward in how PPS supports students on their path to graduation. By leveraging the power of data, the app enables counselors to offer more targeted, efficient, and proactive support. It ensures that counselors are not only tracking academic progress, but also actively engaging with families to address potential barriers to graduation. This tool aligns with our overarching goal to improve graduation rates, particularly for our most at-risk student populations. With Counselor Connect, we aim to reduce disparities in graduation rates by providing counselors with the tools and information they need to engage meaningfully with students and families, ultimately ensuring that every student has the support they need to succeed. As we continue to integrate this new tool, we anticipate that Counselor Connect will be an invaluable resource in supporting students, improving communication between school and home, and driving progress toward our graduation rate goals.
So again, Counselor Connect is a new internal tool we're launching to strengthen how our counselors support students. It helps to document student interactions and ensures consistent, proactive engagement district-wide throughout the school year. The tool also improves communication between counselors and families, allowing for a more coordinated, informed approach to student success. Now let's take a closer look at the data and how our schools are performing. As of April 1st, 2025, 84% of seniors are on track to graduate based solely on credit accumulation. While this is a promising statistic, it also highlights the importance of continued intervention and support for those students who are at risk of falling behind. Some schools like Perry and Kappa are leading the way with 94% and 96% of their students on track to graduate, respectively. And these schools are doing excellent work and will continue to learn from their successes. However, we also face challenges in other schools, such as our Student Achievement Center and Westinghouse. At Student Achievement Center, only 54% of students are meeting the credit requirements for graduation, and Westinghouse has 72% of students on track. And these gaps in performance require our immediate attention and targeted interventions to ensure every student, regardless of which school they attend, can meet graduation requirements, and there's still time for us to strengthen this by the end of the year. Act 158 is Pennsylvania's graduation requirement that allows students to demonstrate post-secondary readiness through 5 distinct pathways. And so Act 158 is an addition to credit accumulation. And these include Keystone Proficiency, meaning that you have scored proficient or advanced at all 3 Keystone exams, which are algebra, biology, and literature. The Keystone Composite, which is combining scores across exams to meet a composite benchmark. Career and Technical Education Concentrator pathways for students in approved career and technical education programs. Alternative assessment pathway, like earning a qualifying score on the SAT. An evidence-based pathway, using a collection of artifacts such as college acceptance letters or work-based learning experiences. And these options provide flexibility and multiple avenues for students to demonstrate their readiness for life beyond high school. And they form the foundation of how we support students in achieving their graduation goals. As of April 1st, 2025, 78% of our students have met the Act 158 graduation requirement. This is 7 percentage points higher than where we were at this same time last year, up from 71% in April of 2024. 78% of seniors have already fulfilled an Act 158 pathway requirement, and so we're now laser focused on the remaining 22%, many of whom are in active progress and can still meet the requirement before graduation. And so we continually track this daily. So this is as of April 1st. I'm sure if we look today, that number would have increased. With all of this data, analysis, and information, we're now ready to provide a status update on our initial strategies for lasting improvement through our continuous improvement cycles. And so this means that we offered research-based strategies for growth that involved planning, doing, checking, and then acting on what we learned so that we can keep improving. And by using this approach, we can make changes to help students in real time and adjust our strategic methods as we go. These continuous improvement cycles help us with capacity building and intentionality focused on helping students succeed. To jog your memory, regarding our 12th grade graduation goal, we employed 3 key strategies. These strategies were designed to work together, creating a comprehensive and cohesive approach to improving student outcomes. Each strategy operates as one gear while working in tandem. They ensure that the strategies employed operate as a well-oiled machine. The first strategy was to focus on standardized communication and engagement to ensure that school leaders, students, and families had a clear understanding of what the requirements of graduation actually are. And they've shifted from the freshman class to sophomores and juniors, as well as seniors. The second strategy focused on structuring the documentation process in a way that was efficient, scalable, and standardized across the district so that counselors could have greater impact and progressive conversations with students about graduation. The third strategy focused on implementing graduation mentorship opportunities to students who were struggling to meet graduation requirements. And since our initial presentation to the board in December of 2024, we've been implementing a structured, data-informed approach to improving graduation outcomes for our 12th grade students. And so we've implemented a series of targeted strategies aimed at increasing the graduation rate for this year's 12th grade cohort. And so this timeline outlines the key initiatives we have put in place to drive progress. So the blue rectangle represents inputs that align with our first strategy on standardized communication. The green rectangles represent the inputs that align with our second strategy on structuring the documentation process. The violet rectangles represent the input aligned with our third strategy on graduation mentorship. And between 2024 and April 2025, key initiatives have included deploying graduation-focused marketing materials to enhance student awareness of graduation requirements, including graduation requirement posters, graduation preparation presentations, and an interactive graduation Jeopardy game to reinforce key expectations while checking for understanding. Conducting individualized senior status meetings with district leadership, school administrations, and counselors to assess student progress and determine targeted interventions. Implementing ongoing monitoring of Graduation Tracker and Act 158 data to ensure students are meeting necessary benchmarks. Hosting Leading and Learning Institute sessions, which are monthly school leader professional learning opportunities to equip principals with strategies for successfully launching and sustaining the graduation mentorship program in their schools. And establishing partnerships with local companies to provide incentives that motivate students making steady progress toward graduation. And lastly, creating and launching Counselor Connect, a structured support network to foster collaboration, share best practices, and streamline communication among school counselors working to guide students towards successful completion of graduation requirements. And so we're going to take a deeper look at our progress on these 3 strategies we employed to ensure we've made progress toward achieving our 12th grade graduation goal. For each strategy, I will review what we initially planned, share what was done, when we checked in on the strategy, what were the challenges, and then our next steps for actions to bring the continuous improvement cycle, full circle. So strategy 1 again. Strategy 1 is focused on standardizing communication and engagement. And the key components of this strategy were clear and consistent messaging. We needed to develop standardized communication materials, including infographics, presentations, and multilingual guides that outline graduation requirements, credit tracking, and post-secondary planning. We had proactive student and family engagement, launched structured check-ins at key transition points in both 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th grade to ensure students and families are aware of credit progress and data-driven monitoring and intervention. And that was implementing real-time tracking tools for counselors and administrators to identify students at risk of falling behind. So let's take a look at what we did do. The communications team, thank you to Ebony Pugh and her team, has developed graduation-focused marketing materials now placed in every high school to ensure students are consistently reminded of key milestones and requirements. These materials include multilingual infographics, guides, and presentations distributed via our high schools, counselor meetings, family engagement events, and district website. Additionally, structured check-ins have been implemented at the 12th grade level to initially provide students and families with updates on credit progress and intervention opportunities. And counselors have begun utilizing real-time tracking tools to monitor student progress, enabling early intervention through credit recovery, mentoring, and academic support programs. And so here's a look into some of the marketing materials that were created and distributed to schools, students, and families to create great awareness around graduation requirements and expectations. And when you click our link, which is pghschools.org/graduation, you will get to see the Graduation Hub on our website that gives real-time updates on our graduation countdown tracker, outside of the Education Committee meeting taking place. Requirements posters, which are in multiple languages, and our graduation guide booklets, and also our graduation presentation. So this is our poster. This is the countdown to graduation. So there's 63 days, 21 hours, 42 minutes, and 20 seconds until our first commencement exercise. This is also the presentation that was shared with students with VoiceOver. This is our tool for the packets that were given out, the booklets. And so when you click on it, you can see what it was about looking ahead to graduation and really putting the puzzle pieces together. When you open it, you'll see a path to graduation. It shares the minimum number of credits required based on your class, what the Act 158 pathways are, counselor support, attendance matters, and really emphasizing that attendance matters, and how students need to begin to advocate for themselves if they're struggling, and giving them some suggestions. And also how many courses and how many credits you need. So you can see the traditional graduation credit and course requirements by years, as well as the CTE graduation course and credit requirements. And then the pamphlet closes with resources and tools to help you succeed. So this is available. They were hand-delivered to schools, but they're also on our website if you would like to see them. And then at the bottom, you see the translated resources in our 5 top prescribed languages. And at the very bottom of this, the web page, you see the high school rehearsal and commencement dates for the class of 2025. So I wanted you to get a sense of what that looked like. And as we're implementing this strategy focused on standardizing communication and engagement, we checked our work and identified key challenges that needed to be addressed. And so a significant challenge has been ensuring that all students and families are actively engaging with provided information. And while the materials are available in multiple languages and formats, initial feedback suggests that some families still remain unaware of key graduation requirements. And additionally, while the structured check-ins are effective, counselor capacity remains a constraint, limiting the frequency of individualized meetings. And another challenge is ensuring that the data tracking tools are used consistently across all schools, as some schools have faced technical and training barriers that lead to slow implementation. And so to address these challenges, we're taking some strategic action through redefining our approach, and that's our ACT section, and those are our next steps. And so to enhance outreach, the communications team will collaborate with school leaders to expand digital messaging efforts through social media and direct outreach platforms. Additionally, professional learning will be provided to counselors on optimizing their use of tracking tools and structuring efficient student check-ins. The second strategy we employed was to ensure progress towards our graduation goal regarding our structured documentation process. And so while our goal of this strategy included increasing the use and understanding of the graduation tracker in our schools across the district, it also was created with the hope of launching and utilizing an innovative and transformative app called Counselor Connect as an efficiency tool that provides counselors with an easy-to-use platform that tracks student data and manages student counselor conversations to ensure students' progress towards graduation. And the key components of this strategy included ensuring the use of the graduation tracker across all schools, creating an accountability structure that allowed leadership to perform graduation progress audits that provide supports for school counselors, and also introducing an innovative tool that allows an efficient use of counselors' time and helps streamline the counselor-student conversation in a way that's meaningful and productive, while also providing our parents and guardians with meaningful follow-up for graduation support. And so what we did do in this section is, since the presentation of this strategy, you've heard about the significant steps that have been taken with the Counselor Connect, but we've also made improvements to our Power BI system, which is our web-based platform that we use internally, that merged the graduation tracker and the Act 158 updates into one dashboard. So previously, they had to go on one dashboard for the Act 158 requirements and go into another tool, into Grad Tracker, to look at that information. Now we have it merged into one dashboard. And so our school counselors and transition counselors are now required to utilize that graduation tracker feature in eSchool Plus for every student in grades 9 through 12 and provide updates, because there's still updates that are needed. And I want to thank Dr. Dwyer and his team from our DREA department for doing this work. And so to support this, the Instructional Technology and Student Support Services teams have hosted multiple professional learning sessions and office hours from September of 2024 to present, ensuring counselors are equipped with the necessary skills to effectively use the tool and provide targeted support to students. And as we're implementing this strategy focused on structuring the documentation process, we checked our progress and identified key challenges that needed to be addressed. So despite progress, challenges have emerged in ensuring consistent use of the graduation tracker across all schools. While counselors are utilizing the tool, some have encountered difficulties in fully adopting the system, either due to technical issues or insufficient familiarity with certain features. And although the professional learning sessions have been helpful, some schools do require additional support to ensure full engagement with the tool. And some schools are still in the process of standardizing their documentation practices, which impacts the consistency of tracking and intervention efforts. And to address these challenges, the district has launched and created Counselor Connect, and will continue providing professional learning sessions for counselors with a focus on optimizing the use of graduation tracker and addressing any technical barriers. And once the communication log system is finalized, we'll conduct additional training for counselors, student services staff, and school leaders to ensure proper implementation and consistent use. And this will include ensuring that counselors are effectively documenting their interactions with students and families to support personalized intervention plans. The data from the graduation tracker will be used to provide regular updates to school leadership, helping to identify areas that require additional support. And we'll also leverage the combined data from the graduation tracker and the Act 158 dashboard to provide tailored interventions for students and ensure that all schools have the tools and resources necessary to help students stay on track for graduation. And additionally, we'll monitor the effectiveness of the communication log system and make necessary adjustments based on feedback from counselors and school leaders to improve its functionality and usability. And the third and final strategy we implemented focused on graduation mentorship, ensuring that any 12th grade student who is struggling with fulfilling graduation requirements was paired with a mentor to help them get to the finish line. And the key components of this strategy included targeted mentorship pairings, identifying students who would benefit most from the mentorship based on attendance, academic performance, or other early warning indicators, and also structured check-ins, goal setting, and incentives to get students excited about the achievement of being graduation eligible. And so what we did is, since the introduction of this strategy, high school administrators have developed a mentoring implementation plan specifically targeting struggling seniors with a focus on struggling student populations. A comprehensive mentoring guide and form have been created to help mentors, whether or not they have an educational background, effectively assist their students. After each mentoring session, the form is shared with the student's counselor to ensure consistent follow-up and a cohesive support system. In addition, the communications team has updated the district's graduation requirements webpage, which I displayed a few moments ago, to keep families informed about their students' progress toward graduation. And families have received some progress updates from schools, and efforts have been made to ensure English language learners' families receive translated materials and additional support. And to further increase awareness of graduation requirements and success strategies, the district is employing various communication channels, including social media, Peach Jar, and email blasts. And as you can see, this chart highlights our senior mentoring meetings by school, identifying the number of struggling students who are identified for mentoring support, who have met with their mentor at least once. Most of our schools have ensured that all students identified as at risk of not graduating have already been paired with a mentor and have had at least one meeting. And so as we're implementing this strategy, we face some challenges. One of the primary challenges faced by this strategy is ensuring that students who are at risk of not graduating can fully engage with their mentors. Many 12th grade students face unique challenges that impact their attendance, such as work or family obligations, which often prevent them from meeting with their mentors. And when students are absent, they miss critical interventions and support, which jeopardizes their ability to stay on track for graduation. And the attendance issue has proven to be a significant barrier to the success of the mentoring program. And to address these challenges, we're taking strategic action steps. Currently, there are 218 students who are not on track to graduate. 178 of those students who are not on track to graduate is based on credit completion alone, while 40 of those students are not on track based on Act 158 completion requirements or a combination of both. And based on feedback from principals during the March Leading and Learning Institute meeting, students need a little more motivation to get to the finish line. And so a decision was made to shift from a group celebration model to individual acknowledgments for students. And this adjustment was made to accommodate factors such as student availability, the importance of building rapport with the mentor or teacher delivering incentives, and the potential embarrassment students may feel if their at-risk status is made public. And so principals will now reach out to the Office of Communications and Stakeholder Engagement with their incentive numbers, and to date, several community organizations and partners, including the Pittsburgh Penguins, the Pittsburgh Center for the Arts and Media, Macedonia Face, Carnegie Mellon University, and the Bhutanese Community Association of Pittsburgh, have generously donated incentives to support these individual acknowledgments. And moving forward, the district will continue to monitor attendance and mentor engagement, adjust the support system as necessary, and collaborate with community partners to provide additional incentives and recognition for students who are on path to graduation. And so as I've shared in previous goal monitoring presentations, this is more than just sharing numbers. It's a commitment to a new way of governing our schools, focusing on transparency, accountability, and opportunity. And I need you all to know that we're working hard to adjust our practices based on the data we have and are doing everything we can to create a brighter future for each and every student in the Pittsburgh Public Schools. So thank you, and I look forward to our conversation as we continue on this journey to improve Pittsburgh Public Schools for all students. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Walters. I'll now take questions from board members. I see Ms. Yord has a question.
Yeah, thank you. And I have a baby who's maxing out, so I'm going to do this quickly. Dr. Walters, thank you for the presentation. I had two questions regarding the tracking of graduation rate. First, can you remind me if PPS has a minimum GPA requirement for graduation, and if so, what that is?
Yes, she asked if there was a minimum GPA requirement for graduation.
Great question, Ms. Yord. So there's technically not a GPA requirement for graduation, but there's a requirement to pass the required classes. So required passing grade is A, B, C, or D. E is failure.
Thank you, Dr. Walters. So with that in mind, and I know that grades are not the ultimate measure of achievement in the classroom because of, students' various learning abilities. But to what extent do we track what percentage of students are graduating with like a 4.0 versus a 3.0? Because again, I know that grades are not the be all and end all of mastery, but I worry about us sending students out into the world who have technically passed a class, but are potentially not mastering the subject, and that we might be setting them up to not succeed as well in college. or whatever they're, you know, a 4-year college, 2-year college, things like that.
So we do track our students in particular grade point average ranges. The more obvious one is, of course, your high honor roll and your honor roll, but we also use those low GPAs to really kind of focus in on interventions because it gives us a story about where students are and where their struggles are. Because if a student is in that range of a 1.0 or above, it tells us a lot about their overall representation of their academic transcript. And so we do put in intervention supports. We have, you know, the Promise coaches usually target that. We have some of our advocates that work in it and other support groups and mentoring programs that really focus in on trying to help students with their success, but a lot of that is rooted in where students land in their grade point averages. So we do track that.
Awesome. Thank you for that clarification. So then my next question is more of a request. In future check-ins regarding the graduation rate for the district, it would be helpful as a board member to see how we're tracking around those GPA ranges, just to see, you know, if we're moving the needle with providing students who are on the lower end of the GPA ranges the help they need. And then it would also be great to see the graduation rates broken out by school so that we can have a discussion around you know, what schools are doing a great job of graduating students on time, and what best practices other high schools might learn from them. So that's just 2 requests for additional information in future reports.
Absolutely. So what I will do for you is I know I can provide for you that 4-year cohort graduation rate, not only by district average, but by school. So I can share that information with you and the board.
Great.
And the other information, we'll get that ready for the next go around when we monitor progress. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Dr. Walters. And Dr. Reed, that was it for me. Thank you.
Are there other questions from my colleagues online? I'm not seeing anyone with a raised hand, but no. Any questions in the room? Ms. Wilson?
Not always calm questions. First of all, I want to say I'm very happy to hear about the Counselor Connect and the process. I'm not saying this happened a lot, but there have been times where a senior in May was told they didn't have enough credits to graduate, and no one should be in their senior year and find out in May that they don't have enough. And so this tracker obviously will start in the 9th grade, so that by the time anyone is really getting behind, someone will be able to intercede a lot sooner than their senior year. You made a comment about many parents don't know the graduation requirements. That's 100% correct. There are oftentimes people think that all parents keep on top of this. Many parents say you're in high school, it's up to you now to get done what you're supposed to do, it's your job, and they don't know what the requirements are. And then maybe they only find out when they find out that their child is not ready to graduate because they don't have their credits, and then they want to know why not. You know, what happened? Why didn't somebody tell us sooner? So that's another reason I think Counselor Connect is absolutely critical and wonderful, and will prevent a lot of those sad times at the end of the year. I wanted to know, in the end of their senior year, how are the mentors identified for graduation mentorship?
So, great question. So the graduation mentors are selected by the school principals. So they traditionally begin with staff, but then there are other support structures that come in to work with students in different mentorship capacities. And so there are times where they use them as the mentors as well, based on the relationship that they establish. But our first line of defense is really using our staff members to be responsible to work and support and be that check-in person. But there are instances where we have community-based organizations that work with particular students already, and we connect them as mentors as well.
All right, you shared the chart with us about sometimes the mentors have only met with them once. Is there any specific timeline or how many times they should meet? Because it seems like if they've only met once and it's already April, that's not enough. Should there be a timeline?
Yes, we are working on trying to make it more consistent. because mentorship is about consistency. It's not about just a one-stop, it's about consistency. And so we know that we'll have to work with building capacity there. The first challenge was, of course, making sure that we could provide some semblance of tips and training for mentors, because mentorship is just not something that you just walk in and like automatically know how to mentor. So it's about relationship building, it's about establishing trust, it's about them understanding that there's some things that you may share, but there's some things that you will help them to process and work through themselves, and building their capacity for support. And so we started with the training first. We then had to work with principals to actually identify the mentors based on the number of students that they had, and it was only focused on seniors at first. And then really kind of creating a cadence for what mentorship would look like. So that's our struggle point now that we're working to improve on creating that cadence of the frequency of mentoring and the check-ins to really support students and beginning to build their capacity to advocate, because after the mentor leaves, that student still has to go and ask those questions and make some changes and some shifts to support their, their goals and their quest for excellence.
Okay, thank you. My last comment really doesn't apply necessarily to this. I have asked about, I don't think I've asked you. CTE has developed a computerized system, it's a way of tracking their students so they can keep track of projects and certifications they received and anything extracurricular, whatever, so that once they've graduated, they have it all documented. Are we on path of doing that for all of our seniors?
We have not started that yet. I think you're talking about their like digital portfolio.
Yes,
That they
yes,
leave with.
yes.
Yeah, and it's pretty impressive for those students. The CTE, because they've received some state funding for that, that was one of their projects that they were able to get funding for to launch. And the work of Angela Mike and their department, they've really made that a focus of the career and technical education program. And it's something that I hope that soon we can do for all students, for them to leave with that same digital portfolio around the skill set that they bring as a PPS graduate and ways that they can present themselves and offer introduction to their knowledge, skills, and dispositions to other folks. So we look forward to doing that. I did have some initial conversation with Angela Mike about that, and she shared it was quite an undertaking, but it's one that we hope to expand district-wide.
Okay, thank you so
I
much.
don't have a timeline for it,
No,
but
but-
it's something that we have explored in just full transparency.
Thank you so much.
So my question really revolves around the three strategies that you've chosen. So when I think about these three strategies, they all sort of are mechanistic, right? They're all like, have you checked all the boxes you need to check in order to graduate? But when I look at the three schools that are most successfully graduating most of their seniors, so that's Kappa, Perry, and SciTech. It feels like for those schools, it's more about the experience that kids are having throughout their schooling, and it's not as much about, did you know you needed to take 4 years of English, right? So I'm just wondering if, as we become, as we get these like sort of mechanistic strategies, as we get those under our belts and become really good at those, then, are we going to start to look at those other school qualities that are helping to ensure that kids are graduating?
Yeah, we are. So mechanistic, yes, in some spaces, like the communication, I think the first strategy was rooted just in an awareness space, because we weren't sure that students had an awareness, or families even had an awareness, and we're still struggling with that awareness. The structured documentation process was really an accountability strategy, because we may hear, I meet with students, but we may have no documentation or record of that interaction. And so that's the May conversation that Board Director Wilson spoke about, that in May, you may hear a student yelling and screaming that you never talked to me, but there's this belief that, well, I thought they did talk to you. And so that structured documentation process was more of an accountability construct that we wanted to build. And then the mentorship was actually around creating support systems in spaces where young people traditionally don't seek out support and assistance. In some of those schools that you mentioned, I think there's some core support structures that are built into the construct of the school that we wanted from the very beginning around from orientation to communication to expectations and to just wrap around of whether you have a disability, whether you are at a certain GPA. It's sort of a cultural phenomena that's built into that school. And that's the challenge that we're trying to do, is to duplicate that same energy, consistency, system, and culture within the other schools to build that as normalized business. And that's our challenge,
Yeah.
because those spaces, it's not by accident. It's very intentional about design. And so that's what we want to capture to try to bring to other schools, whether it may be for us through accountability, but understanding that these things breed success. And there's something that's worthy of celebration when you're successful.
Absolutely. Thank you. That's very helpful. Board members, do you have any other questions? I'm looking online. No one has their hands up. We're good. Okay. Well, if those are all the questions, then we can certainly adjourn the meeting. Thank you so much for the presentation, and everyone get home safely. Thanks.